Are you struggling to make profits trading cryptocurrencies and tired of wasting money on trading classes that don't deliver results? We've got a solution for you. Our trading AI has been developed by a seasoned trader from Switzerland and has been tested over years to help you make successful trades. All you need to do is sign up with Bybit using the link below, and you'll receive free money on your first deposit as well as reduced trading fees. Once you're set up, you can effortlessly copy the trading bots with just one click. Our AI currently has a 100% win rate and generates over 15% ROI per month, and we're confident you'll see the results for yourself. Don't believe us? Try it out for free by following the links in the description and see for yourself. Sign up now and take your trading game to the next level. In this video, I want to discuss something fascinating that Jeremy Hogan recently posted on Twitter about how he believes the ripple effect of the SEC case will ultimately turn out. Now that a summary judgment decision is just around the corner, I think it's fairly interesting to talk about this. I think it will give you guys a much better idea of some potential outcomes on how this thing could end. Was the end of the video. And I also want to talk about a subject that has been circulating in the XRP community a lot lately. The massive conspiracy theory that the biggest banks in the world are going to use XRP to transform their interbank settlement mechanism. I'm going to give you some fairly startling proof in this video that we might be a lot closer to that than most people think. You won't want to miss it, so make sure to watch the video through to the conclusion. In light of the fact that they were among my favorite films to watch in relation to the developments in the Ripple SEC case, it is regrettable that Jeremy Hogan hasn't been producing his legal brief videos. But he has recently begun posting a lot more content to Twitter. I want to break down everything he is saying and thinking in detail because I believe it will offer you a better understanding of how he now perceives the situation. Someone asked Jeremy Hogan, "Hey, is there any good news we can take from everything that's transpired in the last couple of weeks?" So something that he really put out earlier today sort of surprised me. The good news is that the Ripple will benefit more generally the longer the decision takes to draft. Having given it some attention, I found this to be quite intriguing because it seemed to make some sense. The longer Judge Torres takes to prepare this bill or her ruling, the more consideration must go into it, which most likely means she must carefully consider many of the arguments made by the SEC. It would probably be a rather simple choice if she simply agreed with the SEC. The longer she accepts this ruling, the worse it gets. But it is much more likely that she is having to spend a lot of time and thought making sure she properly refutes the SEC's position with Stephanie, who has really responded to this. And I felt he made a really good argument with this. He stated that, regrettably, the judge took considerably longer than he had promised to, and we had certainly not received a favorable outcome in the library case. So, I believe there is one key lesson we should learn from this. And that's why there was never a contract between the court and the library in the case. This individual, after all, hardly knew what a cryptocurrency was. Also, he constantly appeared to be simply going to confirm what the SEC claimed. In my opinion, the scenario is very different. We are in a very different situation in the Ripple SEC case, where Judge Torres and Judge Ned Byrne have gone out of their way numerous times to come out and pretty much chastise the SEC, saying that the SEC was not acting in a faithful allegiance to the law. It seems like the judge in the library case just took a long time because it took him a while to even wrap his head around what a cryptocurrency was. Hey, you guys already ruled that Bitcoin and Ethereum weren't securities. We regard XRP as pretty much the same thing as Bitcoin and Ethereum, they said during one of our initial hearings. Perhaps, though, it serves other purposes. So, there are pretty obvious indications that Judge Torres is most likely not on the SEC's side. And because of this, okay, it's probably for the best that she's taking extra time. Jeremy Hogan has undoubtedly been involved in a number of cases, and it appears that his general belief is that the longer the judge takes, the more likely it is that she will rule in favor of the defendants. Now, if we previously had a deviation from the norm in the library case, where the defendants really lost, I think it enhances the possibility that things will proceed somewhat normally in this case, with the judge taking a little longer. In any case, though, I firmly believe it is encouraging that Jeremy Hogan at least views this favorably. I'd like to comment on something else now before moving on. According to Jeremy Hogan, there are some additional complex legal considerations regarding the potential outcomes of this case. It turns out that there was a very interesting conversation surrounding this, so I wanted to break it down for you. Jeremy Hogan is currently explaining what would happen if the judge separated the infant, which I actually believe is the most likely case. If the court in the Ripple case wanted to separate the kid, Jeremy Hogan claimed that was a horrifying idea, which is amusing in a way. I had never considered it in that way. It's also kind of a horrible phrase. Nonetheless, he indicated she could decide that XRP sales begin in the middle of 2018. Because Ripple's acts had almost no impact, even the SEC admits that we are not securities. What could that possibly suggest based on the price of XRP since then? According to my calculations, Ripple would pay the punishment and continue operating its company. With XRP currently being the only cryptocurrency with clarity, perhaps Coinbase will only sell Bitcoin and XRP in 2019. In essence, Jeremy Hogan is stating that a fairly impartial decision for Judge Torres would be acceptable. You sold XRP when Ripple first started. Those were investments. But XRP is no longer a security. It's very evenly dispersed. Since there are so many diverse projects developing on the XRP ledger, the supply is being allocated fairly across the ecosystem's participants. Simply put, it no longer appears to be secure. As a result, you can continue to grow your company. XRP is not a security. So, I find it very intriguing that he genuinely views this decision as impartial and that Jungle Incorporated participated in this. That's not splitting much, he adds. That is essentially a resounding triumph for Ripple. And I believe that Safari Incorporated is making the point that if Ripple is allowed to continue selling XRP as a currency rather than a security, how could the SEC possibly benefit from it? It appears that Ripple is the only beneficiary. And I believe that anything that isn't spoken much needs to be taken into consideration. The SEC's entire justification for filing this complaint is incredibly hazy. Law professionals who are following this case aren't even certain what the SEC is asserting. Let me explain what I mean by saying that the SEC is making a clear argument. And back when Ripple offered XRP as a security, that was, and I believe everyone in this community can agree that, in the past, there were definitely a number of sales at which you could have suggested that XRP might have been offered for sale as a security. This is not really bad news for anyone because Ripple paid a fine, apologized, and admitted that they should have registered the transaction before moving on. However, the SEC kind of slipped in an incredibly bizarre little add-on to what they were billing Ripple for in the middle of the SEC case. That tiny little addition made no sense legally at all. And that was the fact that XRP is, in fact, a security. But the SEC has sort of begun arguing that ran away from it, then brought it up again, ran away from it, kind of put it back in another document, and then kind of ran away from it. This was not really in the original brief. There was just one little sentence that hinted at it. As a result, it is difficult to determine if this is a key component of the SEC's argument because it is unclear how important it is to their case. John Deaton is now persuaded that the SEC is blatantly attempting to claim that XRP itself is a security. The SEC is not actually contesting this, however, according to ex-SEC lawyers and high-ranking SEC employees with whom I spoke. That is merely filler. They simply added it there in an effort to apply more pressure to the Ripple. Nevertheless, the SEC isn't actually pursuing secondary sales in this case. They're merely stating that, in the past, Ripple offered XRP as a security. What I'm trying to say is that how Judge Torres reads the SEC use case will ultimately determine whether or not she accepts the SEC's properly presented justification for XRP's classification as a security. Or will she respond, "Look, you kind of just tacked this on. There weren't any good arguments against that. The fact that you even attempted to utter something so ridiculous will be disregarded. And we'll only pay attention to Ripple sales." Clearly, XRP is not a security. And if she views the SEC in that light, then what Jeremy Hogan said there is unquestionably splintering the baby. Now, if Judge Torres views this case differently and decides, oh, the SEC made some valid arguments as to why XRP may be a security, which I don't believe she will do, then this case makes it quite clear that it could be a security. The SEC hasn't even made a compelling case that XRP isn't a security. But if you were to enter with the supposition that she is taking into account the claim that XRP itself is a security, then this wouldn't be much of a case of dividing the baby. Rather, Ripple would have won handily. Thus, I believe it's crucial to comprehend how Judge Torres is actually interpreting this case. The honor of having Jeremy Hogan on a live stream was something I truly had. Furthermore, he is adamant that the idea of XRP being a security is essentially moot. He believes that the judge, Torres, will essentially just say, look, you haven't even reasoned this properly. Clearly, it is not secure. Let's discuss the main concerns. That's how XRP was sold via Ripple. If that were the case, and I believe Jeremy Hogan has pretty much nailed it with the baby split, it appears as though she would scold Ripple for making early sales before deciding that it was no longer a security. Continue with your business as usual. Who knows what XRP is? Congress should determine the definition of this digital money. It's not a guarantee, but I genuinely believe that this is the most likely outcome given the direction we're going. And I simply believe that it's crucial to deconstruct what we're looking at because, when you think about it that way, I believe it gives you a lot better perspective on what might be off the table and what is still on the table. I want to close off this video by talking about a subject that I wanted to spend more time on. What's a reasonable result based on the major issues that are currently being fought? Unfortunately, I'm kind of out of time right now. I'll simply quickly address this now in the hopes of expanding on it later. I've been reading all kinds of comments about how banks won't actually utilize XRP, that it's just hooey, a hoax, and that banks don't actually need to use it whenever I look at another video. Folks, we need to keep in mind that the CEO of SBI, one of the biggest banks in Japan, just stated that XRP will be used by all Japanese banks by the year 2025. This is not some sort of hoax. I'm not telling you right now that XRP will be used by all Japanese banks. That is utterly absurd for the CEO of one of Japan's biggest banks to disregard anything like this. The CEOs of the biggest financial institutions and other nations have publicly stated, no, that is not what will happen. As a result, you are free to assign any meaning to what is happening in this universe. Yet I find it surprising when a bank CEO, like SBI, declares publicly that all banks in Japan will utilize XRP. And I don't start out by assuming that something happened exclusively in Japan and that it won't occur anywhere else. Obviously not. If I saw Japanese banks, I can almost guarantee that by 2025, every single one of them will be adopting XRP. Hence, based on my initial premise, many nations will probably take a similar course of action. Also, practically everyone will have access to a cryptocurrency like XRP. We can see the tracks for these financial institutions being rebuilt. And the protocols and technology that have spread now will serve as the new framework for an internet-based financial system in the future. It's wonderful that XRP is already acquiring the level of acceptance it has in the banking industry. Name another cryptocurrency that has achieved this level of institutional and monetary acceptance within our current banking system. I failed to see one. Some, like XLM and XDC, have stories around them. And while I do own some of both, I'm not saying they're horrible. However, they're not on the same level as what we see with XRP. I'm frequently questioned about why I prefer XRP to XLM. Why do you choose XRP instead of XDC? You simply don't perceive the enormity of what is going on with these other cryptocurrencies on the same level as you do with XRP because of things like this. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe because it really does mean so much. XRP definitely has a massive lead in what I believe will be the most significant use case for cryptocurrencies out there.